Hello and welcome to Uncovered, the podcast with your host, Jason Irving. Join me in a journey to understand what's truly happening in your world and the world around you. This is not about how you're living life on the surface. It's about what's truly driving you from under the covers. I'm going to take you on a journey to deeply uncover the reason why you are here, the ultimate purpose in your problems and the way that they have shaped your life up until now. See, I believe you have a purpose, and your problems are the highway towards ultimate realization of that journey towards freedom and the reconnection of your true self. I've been told I have a different spin on most things, and I'll be giving you my understanding of life, love, and what we're all here for, purpose. To get the best out of this podcast, drop what you already know so you can discover what's beyond you. So join me, let's play this game of life and bring on liberation, transformation, and change. Let's do this.
Hi Jason, how are you today?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm good too, thank you.
Welcome to Uncovered. We're going to be focusing on emotional connection today.
So part of the leadership model that we're talking about.
Yeah, so emotional connection is what makes us feel connected to others. It's what makes us feel safe. It gives us a sense of community to our other people and to ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And what does it look like? What does emotional connection look like? Why emotional connection? Why not just connection?
Well, emotional connection is the thing that actually makes us, like, connection's a thing, but what is it? Mm-hmm. Connection is nothing if we don't have emotions. So if you're thinking about a movie that you've liked, mm-hmm. and you're like, oh my God, did you ever think, oh yeah, I felt really connected to that movie, yeah, it was a good one?
No. Yeah.
No, you're thinking about how it made you feel mm-hmm. on the inside.
Oh yeah.
And emotional connection is the essential ingredient as a leader. If you can't emotionally connect with your tribe, then they're not going to want to be around.
Mm-hmm. And how do you get that emotional connection to yourself and to others? Well,
you've got to open the doorways to your heart. There's lots of doors. There's mm-hmm. lots of areas that are in your heart that that you have to spend time with, and not all of them are healthy. Mm-hmm. Right? So, you know how people say you got to trust your gut?
Yeah.
Let's trust your feelings. I call bullshit on that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The reason why is because what feelings are you trusting? So I'll give you an example of this. Let's say you got a belief system that all men are bad, mm-hmm. or all men are unsafe. Right? And then you've got that belief system and you're sitting with me right now. What's your feeling going to be? Anxious.
Yeah.
You know, you're not going to feel good simply because your gut is telling you that Jason's unsafe because men are unsafe. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Make sense?
Yep, absolutely.
Or you've got a disconnection with your body, and then you have to go to the change room, the women's change room, and everyone's getting naked all together in the shower, which is like the sporting arena. Mm-hmm. You imagine how many women or men have not played elite sport because they don't want to be in a change room with a whole bunch of naked people?
Yeah.
Right? And they could be amazing, mm-hmm. but they don't have that emotional connection or stability to be able to go into an environment like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that can be tough, I think.
So the hard thing is, you asked a really interesting question, what does it look like? It's what does it feel like? Mm-hmm. And that's why it's intangible. Mm-hmm. No one can see emotions. It's like no one can hear the thoughts that you don't tell people.
Except for you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, except for me. I remember that class one day, and I was talking away and I said, now Filia, that question that's in your head right now, I'm going to answer that. Here's your question. And I would answer that. What was that like, having that first experience with me?
Oh, that was so weird, because I was just like, what the hell? And then afterwards you're just like, oh man, he always knows what I'm thinking. Oh, don't think anything bad.
Yeah, and that's not the case. That's not. It's just I only hear what is prevalent and important. I don't hear everyone's dirty sort of details. By the way, people think that I do, but I don't. No,
oh, that's good.
Yeah, they feel better. So yeah, I definitely don't hear everything, and it's the emotional connection that drives us to make decisions too. Mm-hmm. So we make. We have an emotional connection to something, and then we back it up with our thoughts. This is what people do. So let's say your emotional connection to eating a chocolate cake, right?
I was going to say chocolate too.
There you go. So let's say your emotional connection is to eating your chocolate cake, and you're like, you know it's not good for you, right? No matter what it is, right? Whether it's organic as well. You know it's not good for you. So you're sitting there, and you're like, just one, it's fine. Right? No one will know. I'll just pick that up on the way home. Which is what I used to do. I got busted having Kit Kat wrappers in my car. Right? And I'm just like, what are these Kit Kats? I'm like, oh, that was me. So, I get to the service station. Every time I go to the service station, I get a Kit Kat and eat it. That was my little sneaky snack that no one knew about, except for the fact that I'm forgetful and I didn't put the stuff away.
You didn't get rid of the evidence.
No, that's right. So that's what we do, guys, is that we get an emotion and then we back it up with our thoughts, and we'll justify it, or we'll have shame and we'll guard it. So that's for the people who are overeating or eating unhealthily in their world. Now, if we have emotional connection in a really healthy way, then we're far more regulated in the way that we are in the world.
So we're more stable as well.
Yeah, we're far more stable. And people who are really unstable, they don't know how to deal with their emotions. Some of them are really amazing creators, so they just do, so they don't stop at all, so they don't have to feel. And then you get people who are addicted to stuff, so they don't have to feel. So emotional connection is probably out of all the things in here, in our awareness leadership model, or academy leadership model, the emotional connection is probably the hardest one to actually regulate.
I can imagine, yeah. And like from personal experience, I would say the same.
And I think the reason why is because it's not taught. No one teaches emotional regulation, except for we do.
Yeah.
Our academy really focuses strongly on emotional understanding and wellness. It's not taught in schools, really.
No,
it's like
mental.
It's starting to. Like teachers are starting to put stuff in. And put stuff in a place where people are going into their emotions. The tricky thing around it is it's quite positive in schools. So when it's a little bit hard to show people how to deal with the negative emotions, because when they're in negative emotions, they can be throwing stuff at people, hitting people, and that sort of thing. You don't want that at school. So as a leader, when you're an adult and you're sharing as an adult, you've got to know where your emotional disconnections are. Where do you emotionally disconnect? Where do you do it under duress? And how do you handle emotions that are out of balance in that place? That's what we've got to figure out how to do really, really well. Because if we're not regulating our emotional state well, then we're going to create problems with the people around us.
And let's maybe do one example or something like, say you've got like a really angry person, and how would you support them in them learning to regulate that emotion a bit better?
Right. Well, an angry person. Let's give a bit of context. Are they angry at me, or are they angry in the world? Where are they angry?
In the world. Let's just say.
Okay. So if they're angry with the world, what you can do, anyone who's angry with the world or the state of affairs that they're struggling with, whether it be child abuse or environment or that sort of thing, that regulation of that anger you could use to actually put some passion and drive into making a difference in this world. So it's knowing how to emotionally connect to what has a lot of meaning for you and gives you a lot of value, and what really matters the most. So my focus that used to get me really, really uptight and angry was people who were sharing information in a spiritual way that was taking people off planet or off track and diverting them from actually living a life that was normal, here and now. So that used to get me really angry, and then Anya said to me one day, well, why don't you do something about it? Stop complaining. So she gave me a bit of stick and told me that, don't complain about it, do something about it. So I did. I created I started creating 10-week courses so people could actually go and invest in development and spirituality that I was teaching at the time in a way that was actually more grounded and not talking about invisible angels and fairies and gnomes and all of this sort of stuff. And I was trying to teach people how to actually live their life right. Right, which is what spirituality and development's all about. It's not about this, praying to a god. Not that I'm saying that that's wrong, guys. I was just giving me the irrits because all the people who were doing that had really dysfunctional lives that I was seeing. I was like, well, every time I'd say, how about the here and now, they get pissed off with me and they just want to meditate on a cornflake. And say the cornflake's going to make, if I meditate on this cornflake, it's going to be healthy and I'll be able to eat it and I'll turn into another dimension and everything will be fine. So it used to get me irritated. So that anger was really healthy for me because I knew what really mattered. And Anya gave me a good kick in the butt and said, do something about it. So I used that anger as a fulcrum to actually create courses, and that's how the academy was built. Out of frustration, pure frustration about how people were not actually helping people live their lives properly. So I wanted to create something that was going to help people deal with life rather than meditate on unicorns and rainbows. And I think this is really, really important to understand how to do that in a way that's going to create emotional connection, because emotional connection is not just working with the things that make you feel good. It's connecting with all the emotions that are actually here to help you grow. And I think this is really, really essential to know how to make sure that we can do all of those things and make sure that we can grow really, really well, and how to figure out how to do things in a really healthy way to make sure that we're growing properly. And if we're growing properly, then we're going to be working with the emotions that we don't like, so then they don't actually affect us when we're in stress.
So you work with them when you're in a good place. That's what you always say, right?
Yeah.
Like you can actually get more help when you're in a good place.
Yeah, so I think it's better that you can make sure that you're looking after your emotions when the harder ones, when you're in good shape, rather than in the well and you're in a victim, and then all your thoughts around what's going on with your emotions become dirty lensed. Right, so emotional connection, there's lots and lots of drawers in our heart that we can focus on. We've got this love drawer, the sexual drawer, all the things that come along in our emotional connection. So it's a broad one. The most important thing is that if we have this level of emotional connection working, then we're going to be able to support ourselves and the people around us in a really, really healthy way. And we've got to be able to do that well. You can't just expect everything to work flowingly if you don't know how to work with the emotions that you're not regulating well.
And I guess that's true for both, like quite emotional people, like more empathic people, and then also quite mental people, because a lot of empathic people actually don't really know what to do with all the emotion, and then mental people actually don't really connect with all these emotions, so both of them kind of have to learn a different way. Hey,
yeah, it is, and it's really important to learn how to do it differently. So empathic people, quite often they feel something but they don't know how to articulate. There's a lady in the academy who's learning how to articulate her emotions now. And then you get the mental people that's like, what do you mean feelings? What are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
Don't do feelings unless there's anger, joy, bit of sadness. Do those three, because you have to sometimes. At most, it becomes a massive reaction, for really mental people to be able to go into their emotional state. So, how do we get there? Filia? Like, how do we teach an empath to be, instead of sympathetic, which is feeling everything in a room and becoming a mess because of the room's environment, to a person who is way too mentally focused to get them to be able to be balanced?
That's a good question. Yeah, I guess you need kind of like different approaches for both as well, right? Like one of them is like, or like slightly different. You know, one of them you actually need to kind of support in feeling anything and allowing to feel anything, whereas the other is more like how to feel the things but not let them affect you that much.
Yeah, 100%. Look, I'll tell you who the easiest ones are to work with to help are more the mental people than the empathic. The reason why is the empathic are all over the place, right? So they're really fun to work with because you can turn them around like a tap turning off, and they can. I had this lady, her name's Danielle. She was just doing a group call and I told her, just feel me right now. She's like, oh my God, I feel so good. So I just gave her a whole bunch of joy. And empaths can feel all of that, right? Once they understand how to mentalise it, if they're way too off base, they're hard to help. But if they can hear the logic and meaning of emotions and don't judge them as wrong, then there's a whole another game that can be played. You know, and you've seen the emotional meanings worksheet that we have in the academy. It's very different to what's in the world, and there's lots of emotional meanings in our podcasts.
Absolutely, we did a whole big series on it. So if you're interested in a particular emotion, there's probably an episode on it. So just scroll down. Yeah,
you'll be able to find it. So then we're looking at the mental ones, and so they are able to go, okay, well that makes sense, right? So they make sense of it. The way that you have to teach an empath is to be rational, and then you have to teach a person who's mental to just do it through meditation. So they need to be guided into the emotion, right? So it's easy to guide an empath, so they just need meaning. And so the ones that are more mental tend to be a lot more stable in lots of ways in the world. They don't get affected, or they don't get tired, or they don't get gassed out by life. It's just a matter of knowing how to work with both of them. So meditation is really good for the mental people, so they can get in their heart and feel. And then the ones that are way too much in their heart, they need to get a little bit in their head. Right, so it's like going the opposite way, and we've got a technique that we use in the academy with 2 different symbols to help people get connected with their head and one with their heart, and sort of meditate and send energy down through to both. So I think emotional connection is something that I just said. I think emotional connection is something that we need to be educated on and work through, because it's not taught in schools. And emotional understanding is not really taught in schools the way that I would love it to be taught. Right? Yeah. Imagine the anxious person actually understanding how wise they are, instead of actually taking anti-anxiety tablets and actually realising they can feel a room. Anxious people are empaths. Right? They've got this amazing ability to be empathic. So imagine if they could actually understand how they've got a gift as opposed to a problem.
And then you don't have to treat it as well.
Don't have to medicate it.
Yeah.
You know? Imagine not having to medicate a gift. Right? It's a gift. And so many emotions that we don't know how to do. If we connect to them and call them wrong, we're going to call them wrong for the rest of our life. Now, I don't have a problem with people who are, let's say, on the spectrum and are diagnosed with something that they need to have under control, like bipolar or something like that. I don't have a problem with people being medicated on things. So listeners, don't just go off whatever drug you're on just because you're listening to me right now. I think it's important to know how to get the training on emotions, so then you can actually learn how to play with them properly.
Because that's not being taught. Yeah.
No, it's not. And emotional connection is an essential ingredient as a leader, hardest one, because we're not taught it. We conceal it. right? And concealing it is simply that. No one gets to feel who you are. No one gets to know who you are. No one gets to find out what you are, why you are, and how you are. And emotions are the ones that actually allow us to feel that way. I remember when you started working for me and you used to give the most uncomfortable hugs. Because we have a hug policy here in the academy. So you give your boss a hug every day.
I do.
And
Who can do that? Hey?
You're the best hugger now. Warm and loving. But when you started, you were right in your head, oh God, what's this going to be? And all nervous and didn't know how to connect with another person. You got an amazing partner in Cody. I was another man, right? And so men were not necessarily safe for you, so you would have had some sort of feeling around me being unsafe. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Then what happened with you? What changed?
I don't even know, like, until you said that. I guess it's just, you know, over time you can just like learn that you can trust someone and that there's like, you know, it's okay. And I think then, you know, when you spend more time together as well, you're just like, yeah, you know, it's fine. Like it's just learning to trust and opening up more as well. And then, you know, like having a few situations here where we had not like a conflict, but just, you know, things that we worked out, and, you know, you were always like so respectful and kind and caring, so, you know, that just like added a whole lot of safety on my end as well, I think. So I think that's the main things that changed. And then until you really pointed it out about the hugs, I didn't even really notice, you know. So it's kind of, it's oftentimes hard to actually pinpoint what exactly changed or when it exactly changed. I think it's a few different factors playing together.
Yeah, and I think that's the case, listeners, that emotional connection with other people happens over time. It shouldn't happen instantly.
Because then you could get like, you can get really, really hurt as well. And being really naive, really. Yeah.
That's right, and being wary and cynical is safe in the beginning. Emotional connection requires earned trust and time. So you can't get that in an instant. You know how you feel this beautiful connection with some people, you just feel it, right? And then you just go, okay, there's a connection here. And a lot of people call this spark in relationships, and it turns into disaster, right? So, I felt this amazing thing with this person, and then it was terrible. Right? So that's an emotional connection that's in another area. It's in the desire baselines, which actually brings up this thing called spark, which is actually the journey of distortions and tricky areas of relationships that quite often turn into disaster. I'm not going to talk about that so much today because we're focusing on leadership. So this is a key ingredient. We've got to learn how to figure out how to get this right, and you're not going to get it right first time. That's one thing I can guarantee you, and you're not going to get it right all the time.
It's probably like, I don't know, but riding your bike. You know, you have the, what are the little support wheels?
Training wheels.
So, in the beginning, and then eventually you take them off, but you can still fall off your bike. Like, you know, there's a gap that you don't see, or, you know, I don't know, you're being distracted or something, you fall off your bike, even if you're a good bike rider.
Yeah, so. And that's essential to know, is that the ability to know how to connect with your emotions takes time. It needs to be taught. You need to have a really good educator, and this is where our academy comes in. We're really good at educating around emotions. I've had someone call me the Einstein of Emotions, simply because I can articulate emotions really, really well. So, guys, this is the one. If you want to have peace, love, joy, you know, a feeling of tranquility, prosperity, passion, excitement, as well as spending time with and regulating disgust, shame, despair, regret, depression, hate, frustration, anger. this is where we need to learn to do it really well as a leader. Most people struggle with this particular side. They're really good mental communicators, and this is where the coaching industry comes in. It's quite mental. There's a lot of not as much emotional understanding. So, and then the teachers who are sharing emotional stuff can be a little bit, if they're not really regulated and don't have enough reason in place, they can be a little bit unbalanced. Right? So I'm more mental than I am in lots of ways emotional, although I'm a really emotional human. So I wanted to find out the reason and meaning for emotions, and that's, when I was a healer, I had so many people that I worked on. I was just like, okay, there's some interesting things here, and all I did was just accept every emotion for what it was and try to find out what it meant. And then I was just like, none of this makes sense.
Yeah, this is not what this is about.
This is not what this is about. So I created a new way of approaching with it.
That's why our emotional mastery episodes are quite different views of the emotions.
100%.
All right, anything else you would like to add?
Just be okay with those emotions, guys, and spend time with them and get some help, because they are something that we need to learn how to regulate and be good with as a leader.
Perfect. See you next time.
Thanks so much for listening to our podcast. We really appreciate you, and we really appreciate your time, because time is so valuable. What we'd love you guys to do, if you like this podcast, if you could share it with your friends, and also our website address for the podcast is www.wellnessbreakthroughacademypodcast.com. Our website is www.wellnessbreakthroughacademy.com. We have a free Facebook group called Wellness Leadership Evolution, so search for that. I'd love it if you could add me as a friend on Facebook. I don't buy it, so add me as a friend, and if you want some help and you would really like some support from us in the Academy, jump in. We have a process. You can do a break-in call to connect in with us. We do small courses. We have lots of things that we share. So we'd love the opportunity to give you a chance to change your life and turn it into a free one. You are one transformation away from change. Come and catch up.